Hello, Game Woven listeners. You may have noticed that the numbers for this episode are slightly out of sync, and in fact, that we have skipped one. That's not a mistake, but rather evidence of a completely different mistake that I made. It seems that I have learned a valuable lesson in the integrity of Audacity project files, and in a way, we've all learned a valuable lesson in the integrity of Audacity project files, as unfortunately we lost one of the Fell Knights world building episodes. But not to worry, our very excellent cast member, Rob B. Rowling, takes immaculate notes, and so I am going to, as briefly as possible, summarize what we landed on in the previous episode so that we can continue forward with the world building. Thank you. We left off the Fell Knights with the most important part of building this antagonist, the aspects, which I will go through now and then summarize some of the conclusions that we landed on. For the numbers of Fell Knights, we landed on the aspect 3. The divide between active blades is split between Fell Knights and regular Century Knights. This is an even battle, with each side booking for an advantage. Or there are roughly even numbers of Fell Knights and Century Knights, with the vast number of blades being unknown or unclaimed. We're presuming that it's the second one, but moreover, we're presuming that there are Century Knights who do not know that they are, in fact, Century Knights, even though there's Fell Knights who definitely know that there's Fell Knights, and therefore, in a way, the Fell Knights have the upper hand. For infamy, we landed on 1. No average person can tell the difference between a Fell Knight and a Century Knight. They assume all crimes committed by Fell Knights are also your crimes. In fact, based on what we've discussed in the world, there is no such thing as a Century Knight. There are only Fell Knights who have not fallen yet. And so the world at large does not trust Century Knights and presumes that Fell Knight is the default. For ideology, we landed on a 2. The Fell Knights follow a strange and extreme ideology, or an understandable one to the point of extreme excess. They may want to blot out the sun, or they may wish for liberation at the cost of exterminating their enemies. The Fell Knight's ultimate goal is to collect all of the Century Blades, so that they can dominate their master, their own deity, the Dawnbreaker. They worship the Dawnbreaker. For their allies, the Fell Knights can only call the Blight Labyrinth an ally. This piece is fragile, but it is enough to cause considerable harm. We go into that a little bit more in detail when we get to the Blight Labyrinth, but in essence, because of the nature of the Fell Knights, they can last a little bit longer in there and can travel a little bit more easily. And finally, for enemies, number 5. The Cosmic Blade itself sees the Fell Knights as an enemy and will favor knights who oppose them. The best part about this is that the Fell Knights worship the Dawnbreaker, which is the Cosmic Century Blade. Therefore, the Fell Knights worship a legendary sword, which is itself considered the embodiment of perfect violence, and that sword hates them. Let's go into the prompts. What rumors are there surrounding how one becomes one of the Fell Knights? How is becoming a Fell Knight seen among society? This one was fun. The idea is, because we have so many weird cursed swords, there is a presumption that no normal person should ever pick up an unattended blade because chances are it's cursed, and so you shouldn't touch it. Another rumor is that the blade corrupts the people, but the truth is, the corruption can go either way. The goal is you must balance the desires of the blade and the wielder. Leaving one astray leaves you vulnerable to corruption. How long after the Cosmic Blade landed did the Fell Knights first emerge? When was the height of their power? What would need to change for them to surpass that? The Fell Knights arrived immediately. We presumed that the very first person to pick up a Century Blade probably turned almost immediately. The height of their power was when no one knew what was going on and none of the Century Knights had found each other. So at this point, very few, if any, Century Knights have found each other. So you could almost think of this as the height of their power. The Fell Knights want to turn everyone, because remember, even a Century Knight is just a Fell Knight who hasn't turned yet. Additionally, we added that there is a kind of shared subconscious knowledge for how to not be a Fell Knight, but they also have a very vague communication network between the Fell Knights that they can use to attempt to corrupt new wielders. And then we went on into abilities. The abilities that we chose were Frightening Presence, whether by reputation or magic. All Fell Knights exude an aura of dread and malice. No one would be willing to face a Fell Knight without a Century Knight or, as we interpreted, a vampire at their side. And Bloody Will. Fell Knights can force most blades to surrender their blessings. Lords and Terrors can spend HP instead of effort to activate a blessing from a blade they do not command as long as they are holding the hilt. I am particularly excited about that. And finally, their weakness. The Fell Knights hold truths that have since been unequivocally proven false. This dogged adherence to this truth hinders them. Downgrade control when Fell Knights are acting to defend a broken ideology. We also added an extra note that Fell Knights can be turned, but it has not happened yet. There is no evidence of a Fell Knight turning back, but we wanted to establish that it is possible. We will now pick up where we left off, going into further details about the Fell Knights. Thank you.